So, how do we sit down and study with intensity? It sounds so simple, right? You're meant to go to just sit at your desk, pen and paper for 2 hours straight, and you get every single piece of work done for the day. But we all know it's not that simple. What happens instead is that you go to sit down, you get distracted by your phone by your side, you get mental notification to just pick it up. Or you even plan something to do, you're trying to be productive, or you decide to do something else instead, something quite random, the thing that doesn't move the needle, but it still feels like you're doing something productive. I used to be a lot like that, but now I'm on the other side of productivity. And thankfully for you, I've got a practical guide about how you can get there too. So we'll start off with the foundation that you need to know, but then we'll move on to the 3 levels of tactics that I have and I've been implementing to help me be more productive and how to study with intensity. Don't get it twisted, I'm not a productivity guru who's trying to give you this common sense advice that you hear absolutely everywhere. Instead, I'm going to give you what I use right now and it really works for my productivity. We'll start off with intensity. What does it actually mean? It's a high force or endurance over a sustained period of time. So what does that look like in studying? Laser focus, high output, and probably a lot of pride in your efforts that you carry out. But as I said in the intro, there's one foundation that you need to know. You need to care. There's no doubt that if you're watching this, you do have some care. But if later on you find out that the tricks and tactics simply don't work for you, then you don't care enough. I know that may sound like a bit of a cop-out, but the reasons why these tactics work for me is because I worked hard to make them work. They won't work immediately. You need to develop yourself in such a way which they will work for you. And when you finally reap the rewards of these tactics and these benefits, then there's no doubt that you'll be more productive, study with intensity, and you'll just be happier. And I didn't intend to put this in the video, but there's one thing that really just came to my mind there. Necessity and discomfort drive people to work relentlessly. And if you have no drive, you have no output, so don't rely on discipline. So that foundation of care and knowing what intensity actually is the most important thing you need to know before you actually sit down to do the work. But now, there's a couple of tactics which I've been implementing to do with care, to do with intensity, which have really boosted my productivity recently. So the first one, the one I've been applying for a while, is to work as soon as I wake up. So most days, I wake up at 5:30 am. It's just the time that works for me. And by 5:50, usually after 20 minutes of doing a little bit of exercise, I get up, sit at my desk and do about an hour to an hour and a half of work. So you see why care is important, right? If you don't care about your work or your studying, then you simply just won't wake up to go and do it. So why does this work? Digesting food takes up the most amount of energy in your body. But as soon as you wake up, you're currently not digesting any food unless you eat stuff in your sleep, which I highly doubt. But when you aren't digesting food, you have a surplus of energy accessible to you to do your work. As soon as you eat, food goes into your digestive system and energy is being used to digest it. So you want to optimize yourself for the times when you're not eating food. So work before you eat. I remember in 2020, old me used to eat, then work. I know for a lot of people that may not sound too stupid, but for me right now, I'm thinking, what the hell? What was I doing? When I worked after I ate, I just felt stupid. I felt my brain wasn't fully functioning. I wasn't being productive and I felt quite tired. Maybe because my energy was being sapped away by the amount of food that was being digested in my body at that time. And I didn't have that energy to go and do my work. So what's the limiting belief that you have now? I'm hungry, I'm tired as soon as I wake up. Well, that's just a lie, right? I've just dispelled that. You have the most amount of energy accessible to you when you wake up. Hungry, yes, you may be hungry, and I do get hungry sometimes when I wake up without eating. But for the most part, 1, you'll get used to it, and 2, if you still feel hungry, drink water. Water just fills your stomach, doesn't it? Before you go and do your work. Sometimes you just drink water to relieve hunger when you don't have food available to you at the moment. But I just think that working as soon as you wake up takes priority here over how hungry you feel, because how hungry you feel can be easily limited by the amount of water you consume. One of my best mates tried this tactic. I didn't even tell him, and he tried to study as soon as he woke up for the recent mock exams that we all had. I heard about his revision session afterwards, and he said it's probably the most glorious revision session he's ever had, and it's something he'll continue to do. He didn't understand the science, but he just did it once or twice, and it worked for him. And I think he's still doing it now, I hope. So hopefully from seeing that I do it and one of my friends do it without any evidence, that it's not some random placebo effect. It really does work scientifically, and something I'll continue to apply for the foreseeable future. Tactic 2 focuses more about when you should be stopping working than working as a whole itself. So you wake up whenever you wake up, anytime, and start working. And after an hour or so, you feel your brain wandering. But do you stop working there, or do you keep on going until your brain starts wandering more? How do you know when brain wandering gets too much? What you essentially have to do is to realise how many times you've been distracted in a period of 5 minutes. I just think that losing focus about 3 or 4 times in 5 minutes is the maximum, and that's when you should stop working and go and take a break. For many of you, and for me as well when I first started, working for about an hour or maybe about 45 minutes was the maximum I could do, because I simply was just losing focus continually. But as I progressively overloaded it, which is the third tactic I'll mention a bit more about later, when I progressively overloaded it, I could continue doing more work. So what do we do when you stop doing work? You go sit on your phone, you go and play video games, you go on social media? No. You go and get food, you go outside, you go and do some exercise. So my routine at the moment is 5:30 wake up, from about 6 to about 8 I do my work, and after I work I go straight to the gym. That's my routine every single morning when I don't have school. So the next thing I'll say about breaks is that they should be as unstimulating as possible. You've probably had that experience where you go on your phone during a break and you simply can't get off after 10 minutes when you said you will only take a break for 10 minutes. You can simply avoid that by just not going on your phone, won't you? And now finally, as I mentioned earlier, overload and repetition. So I've been overloading now for about a year and a half now, and now I can do about 3 hours of high intensity work before I eventually lose focus. Why? I've been doing it for years, and the quickest way for you to progressively overload and make progress is to simply fail more. So let's say you're at the gym, you got the bench press. You can only do 50 kilograms, but quite comfortably. Do you stay at 50 or do you move it up to 55? To make more progress, you do 55 for fewer reps. And the same thing for progressive overload for studying. If you only do 50 minutes of work, then the next time you do 55 minutes of work, you're making progress. Maybe the next time after that you can go up to an hour or an hour and 15 minutes. Well, don't force yourself to sit down, do work which is quite excessively difficult in terms of length, and expect to make progress that way. So you go from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. That's an incredibly big jump. But if you can do it, fair enough. But for the most part, a lot of people can't, and I couldn't when I first started. But some of you may be thinking, won't I eventually get to 6 or 7 hours of work, high intensity per day, non-stop? Turn off your brain, at least 20% off, and focus on yourself making the progress, getting from 45 minutes to an hour or an hour to an hour and a half. I hope this video helped. I've got a free community in my description down below, and I'll see you in the next video.